What is up, everybody? Happy Monday. You are listening to us on a Monday. And if you are checking in, thanks for joining when you got around to it. What a great episode we have in store. We don't always necessarily have themes or intend to, but sometimes it just fits together.
Yeah.
And this is a real sex-driven, how much, how often, how little.
Oh, yeah.
Who's having sex? I grew up conservative. Funny world out there we have in terms of sex and dating. It's a lot of fun. We also have a quick update, if you have been listening with us, from our friend Jeremy, who Rochelle also, by the way, has the hots for.
No, I don't. Why would you?
He's hot.
Why are you going to call me out like that?
So what?
Nick.
Should we edit this out?
No, it's fine. Whatever.
He's a hot guy. I'd have the hots for him. Anyways, if you don't remember, Jeremy super ghosted a young lady, and we suggested he maybe should reach out and apologize. He did so.
Ooh,
he shared with us his message.
What did he say?
Well, we will get that message to you, the audience, in just a second. But first, well, we have a new one. I think this one is really cool and
cool.
fascinating and makes a ton of sense for our audience.
Yeah, modern fertility.
Tell us about it, Rochelle.
Well, I just ordered my own testing kit. You can basically get more information about your ability to get pregnant.
I mean,
at home.
As a wannabe father,
right?
It's a fear of mine for my own fertility, but I think I'm pretty sure I'm good. However, who knows? I mean, genetically, but also there's something women.
But it's different for women because you're born with the amount of eggs you're ever going to have, and then obviously
people talk about their clock ticking.
Right. But the more knowledge you have, the more you can plan, and just the more secure you can feel in your future instead of being so reactive to whatever's happening.
Also, incredible value relative to going to the doctor's office.
Yes, this kit is just $159.
And how much does it usually cost at a doctor's office?
Well, the woman who founded it, so it's at a doctor's office, it's like $800 to $1,500.
Well, that's called savings.
Yeah, it is. And it's also just like sometimes you're not really sure what you're going to do, but you just want to know.
Just want to know. And
Exactly.
then with more knowledge, you have more choices, and then you can look at alternative options and just
totally.
The more you know.
And so when I get my kit back, it's going to tell me if I have the average amount of eggs for someone my age, like if I'm going to hit menopause at an average amount of time, how many eggs I can, if I can expect to have a certain amount of eggs, if I want to do IVF or freeze my eggs.
Or just get knocked up or, it just
whatever.
Again,
yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Well,
I've been thinking about freezing my eggs, so it's interesting.
I think it's great. And right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $20 off the test when you go to modernfertility.com/VIALL. That's $20 off your fertility test when you go to modernfertility.com/VIALL. modernfertility.com/VIALL.
It's good to know.
Good to know. Embark. Well, just like some of our other sponsors, the more you know, the more you can do. And with Embark, you can get the DNA information about your furry little friends.
I mean, come on.
It sells itself.
I know. It's 2019. Let's take advantage.
What is he? Oh my God. Let me tell you exactly. Do you have 12 minutes? Like we said, it is an entire first date covered. So even if not for your dog, do it for your conversations.
Yeah, and you can screen for over 170 genetic health conditions to help your vet provide the best medical care.
Yeah. So if you find out some unfortunate information about your furry friend, well, then now you can do something about it with your vet. Be preventative. Preventative health care will save you and your furry friend's life. Well, right now for our listeners, Embark has an exclusive summer offer you can't get anywhere else. Go to embarkvet.com and use promo code VIALL to save 15% off your dog DNA test kit. Discover your dog more than fur deep. Visit embarkvet.com and use promo code VIALL to save.
We're still waiting on the results for Oliver, but we'll let y'all know.
We will let you know. Well, I hope you bought at least one of the things we told you that would benefit your life.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to allow our audience to finish their purchase. All right. Now that your order is on your way, our friend Jeremy, Jeremy, if you are listening, he DM'd us, and he shared with us his little message. It's pretty short and sweet, but nice.
I hope it went well.
Hey, Mila, I'm so sorry that this has taken so long, but I feel like I owe it to you to send this message. I'm sorry for the way that I treated you in 2015. You didn't deserve it, and I should have had an honest conversation with you instead of just ghosting you.
Ugh.
You don't need to reply to this message, but I felt like this was necessary. I hope everything in your world is well, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Perfect. Good job, Jeremy.
Sweet, direct, not asking for anything.
Sweet.
Just letting her know what she deserves and that she didn't deserve that.
Yes.
And she replied.
Oh no, what did she say?
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for reaching out and apologizing. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well, and I wish you nothing but the best too. !
Oh.
What a great response.
Yeah.
Sounds like to me she replied, so she definitely appreciated it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like she's also fine and
moved
great.
on. Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's probably a part of her who just it validated probably what she always knew and was able to get over with. But
yes.
I bet she had a really great day. Not because she needed Jeremy, but like it just sometimes those things can fuck with us. Yeah. So props to Jeremy
good job, Jeremy,
for reaching out and owning up to his behavior. Even though
super ghost.
Yeah. I mean, we all have done shitty things that we regret, and it's never too late to make amends without disrupting people's having moved on.
Yes. Beautiful.
So.
Wow. You really did your job.
Changing the world.
Yeah.
Anyways, we have some really great callers today.
A lot of sexversation.
Rochelle has made up a new word. She's very excited about it. Don't forget, again, to send your email questions in with all your questions, both men and women. We need your questions to keep doing this. Email us at asknick@castmedia.com, and we would love to share your stories and answer your questions. Without further ado,
strap in, people.
Strap in and strap it on. Here are your questions.
No.
Honey, tell us about it, Rochelle.
It's that free browser extension that gets you discounts, baby. I love it. Every time I check out and Honey pops up and it's like, we're going to look for coupon codes. I just get so excited.
I'll be honest. Natural Habits has a lot of codes out there.
See? If you're buying your Natural Habits and you don't have Honey, you're missing out.
There's probably a discount you can get that you're not aware of. I should probably go back and make sure we turn some of those off.
Yeah, I just bought a backpack because I love backpacks.
Who doesn't?
Yeah,
Michelle?
I know. But I saved $10 and I didn't have to do anything.
I mean,
so nice.
It's like the modern coupon.
It is.
The coupon finder. But think of all the codes that are out there.
I know.
Code whatever.
And it's free, so it's like, why not do it?
There's almost always a code available for something you want, especially when you're buying online.
Oh, Honey.
We'll get it for you. Well, listeners, there really is no reason not to use Honey. It's free. That's right. It's free to use. Install on your computer in just 2 clicks. It will save you money so you can treat yourself to something nice. Whatever it is. Maybe it's essential oils. Maybe it is Frank and Oak. Maybe it's Embark.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Modern Fertility. I don't know. But they're going to help you save on all of these. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/VIALL. That's joinhoney.com/VIALL.
You could save, the average user saves $126 per year. That's like a pair of AirPods.
That is a pair of AirPods. Almost. Well, Frank and Oak.
These jeans are Frank and Oak.
This shirt is Frank and Oak. It's my favorite Frank and Oak shirt. It comes in this wonderful little box. Yep. Super easy, incredibly affordable, stylish. You just go online, you pick all the brands that you've shopped at before. They curate that to your taste and preferences, and then boom, in the mail.
Nick and I both have the style plan, so it's just like, no, you don't have to do anything. It just comes to your door.
I mean, for men out there, come on. I like to have a bit of a fashion thumb, but let's be honest, guys.
Yeah.
Please. And women out there, for your men.
Yes, this is a great gift. Are you kidding me?
Let
for
Frank
a year?
and Oak dress them up, dress them down.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did that make sense? Anyways, we love it. To discover what your wardrobe has been missing, try Style Plan by Frank and Oak. Completely risk-free. Go to frankandoak.com/VIALL and you'll get $25 off your first subscription box. That's frankandoak.com/Viall for $25 off your first subscription box. frankandoak.com/VIALL.
Clothing made sustainably.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
Hi, Allie. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
So good. This is Nick. This is Rochelle.
Hello.
I don't know why I said this is Nick. Like I was outside of my body introducing myself. How can we help you, Allie?
I actually have a question regarding my married sex life.
Sweet.
And actually it's more of I would like to get your opinion on it, on a situation that I just kind of came across. So my husband and I have been married for 6 years. We've been together for 11 years.
Dang.
And, we got married kind of early. I was 24. He was 25.
Okay.
But we've been together for a long time. And I think like all relationships, it kind of dwindled into a kind of sparse sex life.
Okay.
But at the same time, we were both kind of okay with that. Like if we were to list the things in our marriage that we value, sex would be pretty far towards the bottom because we just had such a different kind of foundation to our relationship.
Okay.
And that's never been a problem at all. Like we've discussed it. We're like, you cool with this? He's like, yeah, we're good, But so, flash forward to now, we've sort of gotten to this point in our lives where we have other friends who are married now, like other married couples friends. And I think that the topic of sex life comes up, like, especially amongst his guy friends.
Sure.
And he came home to me one day and he said, and it was after one of these nights out, and he said this very matter-of-factly, I've been hearing that we should be having sex 2 times a week. So I think we should probably start doing that.
Okay.
And it kind of just like took me off the left field a little bit because I was like, oh, I thought, we had this understanding, I don't know, not an understanding, but we just kind of were comfortable, and I'm not super sure if it's something he actually wants or if it's something that is like a social, social norm that he thinks we should be living up to. So, I mean, am I off base and kind of not wanting to do that? Or is he kind of right? Should I be kind of open to this more?
Well, there's no right or wrong answer in terms of what you should or shouldn't be doing in your sex life relative to other people. I'm not a sex therapist, but from what I know is like everyone's different. Literally. I mean, there are people who have a very high sex drive. There are people who have low sex drives, and then everything in between. My personal opinion, I think in a marriage, it's ideal to be on the same page in terms of not everyone's as lucky to end up marrying someone who has a same sex drive, and then you have that one person who's always wanting it and the other person is not, and sometimes it changes. Sometimes if young couples get married, the guys are all horned up, and then later in life, the girls want some dick and the guys are like, I'm tired. So it's just all about communication. So you're not doing anything wrong, he's not doing anything wrong, his friends aren't doing anything right. It's just different. So that's my first takeaway is like he shouldn't be impacted by what his friends want. Now, that being said, it's entirely possible that he was never really comfortable with admitting that he always maybe wanted more sex. I don't know. Your husband. I'm just I'm making a generalization that sometimes people, even when they're married, are never really comfortable talking about sex. I've become very comfortable talking about sex, but weirdly enough, growing up, we didn't talk about sex ever. Even now, as comfortable as I am talking about sex, and I have a podcast, we talk a lot about sex. I've kind of thrown it out there with my parents a little bit, but if I were to talk about sex with my parents, I get really awkward. And I guess what I'm saying is,
I would never do that.
Sometimes it's just, it's always been considered fairly taboo. less and less now. So it can be hard for even married couples to do that. So I guess my question to you is, do you feel like that's what he really wants, or do you think there's a possibility that's just what he always told you because you've been pretty adamant that you don't have a high sex drive?
I think you might be on base with that. Mainly, he's very shy when it comes to sex, and he always has been. Like, even when we were dating, he's always been kind of shy about it. So that's a very real possibility that maybe this is like his way of telling me that. But either way, I'm like, that's a super unsexy way to solicit your wife for sex, give her a quota.
Definitely a very unsexy way. Hey, my friends are fucking. I think we should too.
We got 2 times a week.
Like, babe, I don't even want to have sex with you, but I just need to keep up. Not really hot, guys, for our 10%ers out there. Yeah. But again, in his defense, I'm not defending him, but you guys just don't talk, you don't talk about sex, you don't have a lot of sex, and it can be awkward, and especially for guys, they're just kind of stupid and when it comes to that. And, women can be too, if, again, it's just really uncomfortable. And in his mind, he's using his friends as an excuse for something he's never really felt comfortable enough to bring up. He's probably could be afraid of what you're going to say. And now he feels like he has allies. As dumb as it sounds, he's just like, well, shit, I'm not alone. I always wondered if maybe we should have more sex, but turns out other people are having more sex. And so it could be that. I guess what I would encourage you guys to do is, and maybe you, if you, just start, whether you guys start having more sex or not, you can still talk about sex. Mm-hmm. You can feel comfortable about always communicating about your sex life. Even in the bedroom, when you're not having sex, talking about it a little bit, what each other like. Are you just do you not, what about you? Are you really comfortable with the current sex, or also are you both just not having sex because you're both kind of awkward about it?
Okay. But when we do have sex, it's great. It's fine. But for my taste, it's a little vanilla, I guess.
Okay.
So and I've tried to talk to him about, like I said, he's super shy. So it's hard for me to be like, hey, I'm totally gung ho for doing this more. But honest to God, I get kind of bored, with what we're doing right now. I'd love to start introducing some, other stuff into, our sex life. But again, I struggle because he gets so shy about it.
Yeah, you said
I've always been a little bit more vocal about my sexual needs, but it's still it's to the point where I'm I don't want to make him uncomfortable, and I don't want to revert him. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but
yeah, she said in her email 8 years ago they talked about doing anal, and he totally freaked out, and that was the last time you tried something. Crazy.
That was our last exploration into kink was that, and it was 8 years ago, and it totally freaked him out.
Yeah, listen, I think it is really just about communication, right? That was how long ago?
8 years.
And he was how old? 24, 25? Again, it's, there's these signs that he wants more sex, but he's also shy and a little awkward about it. It's a lot of these things are taboo, like we talked about in an earlier call. Again, there's always mixed opinions about it, but as a couple, if you guys are comfortable, maybe watching some type of porn together, I think you guys just need to talk more about sex. Anal's a pretty aggressive step. But
to be fair, that was back when we were a lot more sexually active too, so it wasn't as far of a diversion.
I'm not knocking it if you're into it. I'm just saying don't go from 0 to 100. In the sense of, again, sometimes when I'm in relationships, I think what's really hot is to talk about sex with your partner when you're not necessarily about to have sex. Maybe it's texting each other about what are you into? What do you like? Fantasizing, sexting in a sense of looking forward to coming home, and kind of dirty talk. Even text is easier because you don't have the awkwardness of being in front of them. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of play around with it and then ask questions. There's also you are married. married couples can see sex therapists too. And that's not necessarily a reflection on the health of your sex life, or that's not suggesting that something's wrong with your marriage or sex life. But if you're two people who maybe struggle with your sexuality and communication, there's some awkwardness, maybe just getting more comfortable with the idea might really open things up, no pun intended, to your sex life. Because it seems like it's really unclear. It's like you both are saying you're okay with not having a lot of sex, but you're kind of both open to doing more things and experiencing more things. You've been together so long, you're in this committed relationship, and you really want to explore more fun things with each other. And I think that's great.
Well, if you're saying like that's not romantic for him to say you have to do a quota, that you could be like, hey, like that language doesn't work for me. Like you got to romance me a little bit. Take me out. Like,
well, saying that language doesn't work for me is equally not as like, it's hard for a guy.
Yeah.
He's going to get defensive as well. I mean, it's tough. And just again, in a very non-threatening way, because you don't want to be like, well, baby, when you say it like that, ooh, but just say, hey, listen, I think the best way to approach that is to acknowledge, I know you and I are not good at this, right? Don't put it on him. Don't put it on you. Always like use like we and us when talking about your sex life with him, regardless if you're talking about him or you're always make it a team. Hey, we're not really good about talking about this. And I know but I agree with you. I would like to see us kind of work on our sex life, whether it's trying more things, whether it's doing it more often, but at the same time, I want us to both get better. I don't want to have more sex with you because your buddies are fucking more. I think he will appreciate that. I don't think he probably didn't mean it like that. It was just his way. To me, it sounds like two people who aren't good at talking about sex are trying to talk about sex, and they're finding these other ways to justify what should be a very normal and comfortable thing, but often is not in any type of relationship. And so you guys have just never done it. You've been together for so long. It was never a strength of either of yours. You know, sometimes in relationships, you have one person who's pretty open about sex, and then they start dating someone who isn't as comfortable, and the person who is just talking about it so much, it just makes the other person be like, you know what, this isn't a big deal. This is kind of hot. This is fun. I actually like talking about sex with my partner. I like fantasizing with them. But one person usually is good at helping the other person feel more comfortable. And we have two people who are just like, you know, just running into walls and not really knowing, no one's taking the lead here. And you're both kind of awkward about it. And that happens, and that's okay. So you could try. I think it's seeing a sex therapist would be maybe a great option for you guys to look at.
I was saying I was about to say do a date night instead of be like, we have to have sex tonight. Instead, go out.
Sure. I mean, again, there's a bunch of ideas we could throw at them.
Yeah.
But I think this is about communication.
Yeah.
We are talking about two people who are awkward about talking about sex. So having a date night, I could just imagine you two, and one of you going to say something and make the other person feel awkward. Mm-hmm. So take it slow with each other in terms of how you talk about it. But again, just use, say things like we and us and say let's just put it on the table. Let's talk about it. We are married and we love each other. And again, I do think maybe seeing a sex therapist could be a good option for you guys. I think learning how to communicate openly about sex is a big part of a relationship. And it seems like both of you kind of struggle with that a little bit. And that's okay. It's
a good idea. I'll listen to that for sure.
But both of you you have to really focus on not making the other person feel judged, because if you're like, hey babe, we should try anal or whatever, and then he's like, whoa, then you feel like, whoa, am I a freak? What's going on? No, you just he might even be into it. He just thinks he's supposed to think it's weird. I don't know. And I think that often happens with sex, as you've been told to think one thing and you're kind of like, I'll be honest, if I like this, am I a freak? I don't know. And am I okay with being a freak? Maybe I am. I don't, so these are all different things that you have to try to explore as a couple.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good. I'll work on those.
let us know when you guys join some sex club. It'll be great.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thanks for your call.
Thank you, Nick.
All right. Have a great day. Yeah. Bye. People don't often like talking about sex. I mean, again, we have a very Puritan culture.
Yeah.
Our country was founded on that.
Yeah.
Sex is bad. Sex is a sin. Sex is not to be talked about. It's,
I loved what you said about not making the other person feel bad and saying you and like you're not meeting my needs, making it about us and like
yeah, that's a great way to get a guy defensive.
Yeah.
And women too, you know, when guys are like, you should do this. Wait, I should? What am I, your sex slave?
Right.
What the fuck, bro?
Right.
And it's just, and again, I think it's what often happens in relationships when you're talking about sex is it's two people not trying to say the wrong things and not necessarily being bad people, but just not knowing how to talk about it.
Yeah.
The more awkward you feel about something, it's the easier it is to screw up and say the wrong thing. And then you bury yourself. I don't know. So that's what it sounds like to me. It's like two people trying to figure out how to talk about each other.
Yeah.
I mean, all jokes. I think these people. I mean, I'm sure they might not be both sexual people, but it'd be pretty funny if they just like unleash Pandora's box eventually.
Oh God, I hope that happens.
Yeah, I think it's a great sign too. I mean, if eventually she seems like, you know, first she calls in, she's like, well, I'm happy with my sex life, but his buddies want to fuck more.
Right, but then
she's like, but I wanted an anal 8 years ago.
Right,
like,
so maybe you just buried that part of yourself deep.
Yeah, so I think they're both trying to, it's like people won't want to feel judged.
Right.
Certainly by their spouse.
Right.
It's just like, well, if I admit to this, is it going to be like, can we never get past this?
Right.
And, you know, maybe subconsciously she felt judged for the past few years by trying to open up. And then all of a sudden her buddy's like, well, my buddies think we should have more sex.
Yeah.
That's not hot.
Sucks. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm a big fan of sexting in a relationship.
I've noticed that.
I just think it's for people who have a hard time talking about it. It's a great kind of first step.
Yeah.
When I mean, I'm dating myself, but I'm old enough to be like, you know, I grew up when like I remember text becoming a thing. You know,
I do too.
When I got my first cell phone, it was like, it's like, what is this texting thing?
Right.
You know, it was like, I'm never gonna do that. Why would I do that? I would just I'll and then like fast forward a year, I would be like, I thought to myself, girls will say the craziest shit via text. I'd be at work and I get a text like, come over and fuck me. And I'm like, whoa, huh? Who are you? But like, there's this like freedom of like just being able to like, you know what? I'm going to send it and we'll see what happens. I don't know, whatever. I was drunk. But to that point is if you struggle talking about it in person, it's just a great way, especially with your partner and you trust someone, keep in mind, you know, when you text something, it's fairly permanent. So do it with people you trust in a marriage that you think you should be able to trust, and you know, throw out a couple haymakers and just see, throw out some landmines and see where it sticks. You know, like I just try it out. I think it's fun to be like in the other person, and then if you're hopefully the other person is not, you know, oh, that's hot. Tell me more. You know, that's hot. Ooh, hopefully describe it. Use
they'll
details.
They'll be down.
Yeah, I think it's great to say get your partner to use specifics. Ooh, I want to do things to you. What do you want to do?
Oh God, I've had some bad experiences.
Well, I mean, again, start slow.
Yeah, some guys go too hard, too fast.
It's like first,
that doesn't sound even.
I'm gonna kiss your neck, and I'm gonna. Then I'm fucking you in the ass.
You're
whoa!
Full of cum for weeks. Like God.
Holy cow! Weeks. Weeks? I have a job, sir.
That just sounds uncomfortable.
Why would I want to have come for weeks? And I don't. Do I have to hold it in? I don't understand.
Yeah, and why do you? Yeah.
What, weeks? Meanwhile, then you eventually have sex with them, and like a little drip comes out. Like, what is the weeks part?
No.
Anyways, start slow. Whoa, we got off topic.
Yeah. Well, happy humping to that caller.
Yeah. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing great, Nick. How are you?
I'm doing well. We have Rochelle here as well.
Hey, Rochelle.
Hi.
Why don't you tell us your story, and we will see if we can be helpful.
Okay, so to set it up, I'm not really looking for advice for how to handle it.
Okay.
I'm looking for feedback on if I am like really reading into a situation or if it's just more chill than I'm thinking.
I can try to help out with that.
So, okay, perfect. So I just got a dog. We've been going to the dog park.
Okay.
And I met this guy at the dog park because our dogs just were like instant best friends. We walked all along that trail that time, exchanged numbers at the end, and then got together a couple days later to walk our dogs.
When you got together, like you made plans to hey, our dogs like each other kind of thing. Right? That?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we made plans. I reached out and I was like, hey, we're going to go to the park. He's like, okay, I'll meet you right then. And it was like at the last minute. So we met up, had a good time. Our dogs just love each other. And the next time he reached out, we met up. And as we were walking into the trail, I turned and I was like, oh, hey, is this your friend? He's like, oh, no, it's my wife. And I was really surprised because he had only ever used singular pronouns, had never mentioned anything about anybody else in his life.
Uh-huh. How many times did you hang out before you met his wife?
Twice.
Okay.
Oh.
And in each of the first time and then the second time, like the second time specifically, how long was it? Was it like you guys talked for a couple hours? Was it like a 20-minute play date with the dog? What are we talking?
Probably an hour and a half both times.
So a good amount. And then your dogs are playing, but mostly you guys are talking.
Yeah.
Okay. So you meet the wife.
I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And so I am chatting with his wife, and she's cool. And she immediately wants to start making plans with me. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. That's fine. They've both moved here within the last 5 months.
So the wife has been the wife has been
friends.
Very kind of, she was overtly friendly with you?
Overtly friendly. Yes. Very friendly. I probably had a look. I do not hide my feelings. And so I probably had a look of utter shock when she's like, oh no, I'm his wife. And it just didn't seem to faze her at all. And I was like, okay, whatever. They probably just want to be friends.
No red flag went off on her part. She's like, why are you so surprised to know I exist kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
None of that. And so I left that encounter. I felt really awkward the whole time and a little uncomfortable. And they've both reached out since. This has been a week since I've seen them, and they've both been reaching out, wanting to either hang out with me or meet up at the dog park again. And I've just been busy and haven't been able to. I don't really feel like I want to hang out with them because I've had the thought, what if they're in an open relationship and want to have me come into that, which I'm not here for.
Okay. And so you say that you're not looking for advice of what to do in that sense, and that is because it sounds like you're just your choice is to this is weird, and I'm probably gonna shut it down type of thing.
Yeah, I'm a pretty direct communicator, so that's not an issue for me.
I think that's probably a safe choice.
I don't know if they are just wanting to be friends or if they're looking for more.
I mean, it's hard to say, right? I don't know them. You said they just both recently moved, obviously as a couple, to this new city. And I guess, how old are they?
They're probably in their mid-20s.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder to make friends when you move to a new city after college, or outside of work. You rely on work, and so it's always a struggle for men and women, especially even sometimes married couples, to try to extend their friend group. So there is that. I always say trust your gut. You got a weird vibe from it. The fact that you spent a lot of time. Was he wearing a wedding ring when he was when you first met him?
He wasn't the 2 times we hung out, just the 2 of us. But when his wife was there, he was.
Okay, so that's weird, right? Not normal. So you definitely have a weird vibe from this. So your choices are either ask them point blank, and be like, hey guys, are you in an open relationship? Are you trying to fuck me? Or ignore it and just be uncomfortable or not hang out with them. And it sounds like you're going to go with option 3, which is probably the safe and healthier choice. I'm just curious as to, other than, you know what you want. I mean, I appreciate you calling and telling this story. What's making you want to ask someone or myself or anyone what this situation is, as opposed to just, you know what, that was weird, I'm just going to move on. What's in there?
Because I've asked a couple of different friends, and one of my best friends is married, and I told her that, and she's like, oh, I probably do that all the time to people, because I just am in a very trusting relationship with my husband, and I'm not often wearing my wedding ring, and so they're probably just wanting to be friends. And then I've talked to other people, and they're like, oh, no, that sounds really weird.
Well, sure, right? Because everyone is different, so I guess I can see both sides. I'm not making that big of a deal about the ring per se. Again, I'm not married, and I know that some, just because you're married, and guys often, especially, find the ring uncomfortable, so there might be those things like that. I mean, men can still cheat with a wedding ring, so it's not like that's the chastity belt, so to speak. But more importantly, you just felt the vibe in terms of like, for an hour and a half communication, there's also ways to do it. I remember when I had a girlfriend a while, it's been a while, but when I had a girlfriend, I was at a bachelor party in Vegas, right? And it was me and my buddies, and we met this group of girls, and they were like in the pool too. And this whole group, everyone's just like hanging out, nothing inappropriate going on, but there's these group of people, and one of these girls was very flirty with me, and like, you don't want to have to awkwardly like be aggressive and be like, oh, whoa, I got a girlfriend or I got a boyfriend. But there's a lot of easy ways to look for an opportunity to just throw it out there casually.
Yeah.
And so, for example, in this group of girls, like, people were like, well, what do you do for a living, et cetera, et cetera. And this one girl said she worked at this company. This was a large company that my girlfriend at the time happened to also work at. So immediately I was like, oh yeah, my girlfriend works there. It was just, and I deliberately mentioned it to just be like, everyone, just so we know, I have a girlfriend, right? And that's the way people do that without making it awkward. And so that you spent 3 hours with a guy who's married, it's so effortless to say, oh, what brings you to town? Well, me and my wife just moved here. That simple, right? And the fact that he didn't mean that is, again, it's a weird situation. But I guess I'm still like, I know maybe you're just fascinated by the situation, but I don't know. I just feel like there's something in you that's trying to figure out, like, what are you trying to figure out? Because I know it's weird, but like, like, are you just curious? Are you just like a naturally curious person, or why are you? Okay. So it's not
I'm just a pretty curious person. I'm just fascinated. I'm like, this is a new situation. I've never faced this. And I'm wondering if I'm just like, have my little antennas up too high, or, if it's a real thing.
Did he say anything sexual to you, or did she? Like, did they?
Yeah,
No.
So yeah, minus her, but like, let's focus on him. Was he flirty the first 2 times?
He was friendly.
Okay.
I'm also very bad in picking up on signals.
Okay, fair. Yeah, and listen, it just seems like I find it to be a little unique or weird, and not to judge, but there are, you never really know. But it sounds like, I'm assuming you're single, right? So you're looking to date someone. Here you are, thought you met a nice guy. Like, were you attracted to him? Is that like, minus your dogs being best friends, were you like, at the time, the first 2 dates, you're like, oh, maybe this is a guy I could keep hanging out with? I mean, wasn't really about the dogs per se, right?
It was both.
Sure, right. I mean, and that's neat that your dogs loved each other, but I'm assuming like this whole time you're like, as much as if
he's cute, like I'll keep like chatting with him and see like if this is the thing.
If your dog hit it off with some other dog and the owner was someone you found to be slightly annoying and you weren't physically attracted to him, I'm guessing you would be less inclined to go out of your way, even if your dog.
Absolutely.
Right. So like
100%.
That's neat that your dogs liked each other, but I don't think it was really about the dog. Which I'm just saying, like,
that's fair. That's
it's a bummer to like someone, right? And that's the thing. It's just like, oh, when you're single and you meet someone that you're like, ooh, maybe option, right? And then only to be like, you get a little excited. Maybe you tell your friends. It's just like, I met this guy and our fucking dogs like each other. This is great. I can picture our lives together. And then like date 3, his wife shows up.
Yeah, that's
like,
not good.
That's a bummer, right? And what an unfortunate situation. But I mean, I don't know, like, all things being equal, do you think you could be friends with her? I mean, maybe you have enough of friends. You're like, I don't need another chick in my life. I don't know.
I mean, I've got plenty of friends, but I'm like fine to be friends with them. I don't care. Like, they seem like nice people. So like,
I mean, listen, if you're
that not an uncomfortable situation, then sure.
If you're that naturally curious of a person, just for fun, the next time she reaches out to you, grab a cup of coffee with her and just be like, can I just be honest?
Come clean.
Can I just be honest? You guys seem like really nice, but I didn't know you existed the first 2 times. And, you know, you guys, I feel like we were becoming friends, but I was a little thrown off by not knowing you existed. And maybe it seems like you have a really trusting relationship. She might just be like, well, if I'm being honest, we're just trying to fuck you. I don't know. Maybe she won't. Maybe she, you know, I don't know. Maybe, who knows? It could, if you don't feel threatened by them.
Yeah, do it.
Right? You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm assuming they're normal people, but meet in a public area and have a cup of coffee and just be like, yeah, can I just throw something out there?
And send us an update.
Yeah. Let us know. I think there's more to be discovered here, and if you're up for it, I think you should just. There's no harm in finding out just for fun. You don't seem to be overly invested in this relationship, which is great, and I'm sure your dog will like other dogs, so that's fine.
He does. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, probably the only takeaway is like sometimes we like to use our friends and dogs and our work as excuses for things that like, hey, I liked him, and he turns out he has a wife. And that's a bummer.
Yeah, it is. Is that something people do? Groom you for? Do people groom other people for threesomes?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I've never been in a relationship where we mutually were trying to find a third party.
It seems icky. Like, or do you? Yeah, I guess if you just come right out with it, most people will be like, no thanks.
I feel like I don't. I know I have some friends in relationships that have non-traditional relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
I get the sense that there's a community.
Yes, that you can pick from.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I get a sense that if you are in an open relationship, there's like a pool of people.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Or do you go out hunting?
Well, I have a couple friends who got like drawn into someone's
approached,
but not for threesome, just for like a guy's side girl. And they're like, yeah, he takes me out. And like his wife knows, but like I know that we'll never have a relationship because he's married. But I think they were groomed. Yeah. This is LA, so it's a little
yeah, I mean, LA is a unique city where I feel like there's people okay with someone like getting the rent paid for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could be,
yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, that's what I would do. I would look into it.
Okay.
I would have some fun with it or just leave it alone. But I get the sense that you're also curious and you want to know, and I can give you like here are the possibilities of the situation, but I don't really know. And I'm curious myself. So you might as well just ask her.
Yeah, and just say, like Nick said, that it was weird that he didn't mention you. Like,
to be like, I called on this podcast and I told this story, and they told me to ask you if you want to.
That won't be weird.
Maybe we'll get 2 new listeners. You never know. Spread the word. All right. Well, Laura, let us know if you get an update. Email us, and we'll share it with the audience. I think we always appreciate the follow up. So. Thank you for your question.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a great day. All right, bye-bye. I don't know. I like we talked about with Laura on the call, the open relationship world. It's getting more buzz.
It is, yeah.
I don't know if that's our society in the sense that we've become less and less traditional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, myself, you are similar to that. We grew up traditionally.
Yeah.
I still hold on to a lot of my roots, and I think traditions can be great, and I'm very proud and thankful for where I came from. But at the same time, as you get older, you're like, wow, we do a lot of things just because we always did them.
Yeah.
And I think marriage is a beautiful thing, and the family dynamic is a healthy one, but sometimes it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people are into different things. Last night,
what?
I'm from Milwaukee, right? So I follow like local, like on Twitter, like local news. And one of the local news did this report about this very beautiful Iowa lawyer, 30 years old, who is a part-time prostitute in Nevada, married with a kid. Oh. She met her husband when she was a prostitute. She works at a brothel. Because
it's legal there?
It's legal in Nevada. And it's like this, like a well-organized, it's not like she's working in the street.
Yeah.
I mean, she's an absolute babe.
Yeah.
And she's a lawyer.
She makes a lot of money.
Her and her husband have a law practice together in Iowa.
Okay.
They have a kid together.
Okay.
They're just extremely non-traditional.
Yeah.
And her argument is just, she's like, it was a story because she's advocating for prostitution in a sense of like the shame that goes with it,
and legalizing she's just like it.
There's consent, there's all these things. I can say yes, I can say no.
It's more empowering
for the women. You can't give me money, and that's somehow illegal. And again, I'm not here to say whether I agree or disagree. It's just a fascinating alternative point of view. And so many things we do in life and the things we judge are often come from how we were raised. And listen, if you're very much, people listening, your beliefs might tell you that's a sin and that's not okay. And I'm not here to disagree with you. I'm watching and be like, my mind is blown right now. I need to process this. And they ask the husband, it's like, what do you think of your wife being a prostitute? Which is like a really almost seemingly offensive question. But it's part of the, he does, and he kind of looks, and he looks really young, handsome guy. He's just kind of like, I'll be honest. And he kind of like, I don't really care. Oh. And it was like, listen, that's who they are. Yeah. I only say it's just like, if that works for them, right? I don't think I could be on board, but that's what they are for, and they have each other, and I guess, and we're seeing more and more alternative lifestyles out there, and I think the important thing is it's just, you really have to be on the same page with it. It's all about communication.
About Laura, like, it feels bad to feel like you're getting deceived or tricked into something
from Laura's standpoint, but like we don't know whether this is just has nothing to do with the threesome or just like people looking to make friends.
But I love your message of trusting your gut, because so many of us have learned to not trust our gut.
You gotta trust your gut.
You really can't go wrong.
I mean, your gut's not always right, but the gut always tells you to ask more questions. Yeah. And it's, the people, like, what's the difference between, like, trusting your gut and kind of leaning into your insecurities, right? Because, like, you can, trust your gut or just being a paranoid person. Yeah. There's a difference, right? If you're creating situations in your head based off of very limited evidence, then that's you're being paranoid. If you're, like, looking for things and creating scenarios. But if you feel like you're ignoring things, if your gut tells you that something's there and you keep making excuses for your gut, that's when you should really pay attention to that. So are you making excuses for or are you creating things is kind of the way to help yourself through that. Yeah. What's up, Ashley? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm Nick. This is Rochelle.
Hi.
How can we help you, Ashley?
Well, I grew up really religious. And part of that was the whole purity culture thing.
Hell yeah.
And always thought I wasn't going to have sex until I was married, or
same
until even kiss until I was married.
What?
That was me too.
I was pretty sure I was kissing. That's for sure.
Hardcore. But then I became not religious in my mid-20s, and my first kiss was when I was like 25. And then the first time I had sex was when I was 28 with my now boyfriend. Okay. So along with that, all that religious stuff is I'm very inexperienced when it comes to sex and intimacy, and I'm a little worried about boring my boyfriend.
You're worried about
what would your sorry, go ahead.
You're worried about it?
Yeah, I'm worried about it. He hasn't said anything about it, but secretly I'm just kind of insecure about it and worried that I might be boring.
Well, that's very healthy, I think, of you to admit your insecurity. And a lot of people pretend things don't bother them, and then they like project the shit out of it, and it gets really weird. So good for you for admitting that. I think I always say that admitting your insecurity it's one of the most confident things anyone can do, and it's a very attractive thing. People are very attracted to people who say, you know what I'm really insecure about, and then they say it, and then it's like a real insecurity, as opposed to like it'd be like what you don't want to do is be like Tyler. You're like, I'm really insecure about, like, I don't know, my skin. It's like I feel ugly today, and everyone looks at Tyler C. and it's just like, dude, you're hot.
Does he say that?
No, I'm saying like when people like. It's that like false self-deprecation.
Yeah.
And making up insecurities to sound like you're good at insecurities is a great way of looking insecure. I think I'm getting off topic here, but this is a real like insecurity of yours, and it's sometimes hard to admit. I'm afraid my boyfriend thinks I'm boring in bed. Yeah. That's a real insecurity someone can have. And to be able to admit that is a sign of confidence. And so I think you should just use that as a starting point to be proud of yourself for being confident.
Yeah.
My second point is, be aware of that and don't create realities that in your head that aren't true in the real world. If it is something you do wonder about, you could ask them.
Sure.
Start there. We just had a caller. It's going to be a lot of similar things. Sex is tough to talk about in relationships. It's harder for people who aren't good at talking about it. But start slow. If you're going to be in a relationship with anyone, regardless if you're conservative or not, you should be able to communicate about sex. Otherwise, it's really weird and unhealthy.
In the email she sent, she's never given a hand job or a blow job or tried any positions other than missionary. So
that is the definition of vanilla. Yeah. Let me ask you this. What do you find? Do you think he has a high sex drive? Do you think he's wanna?
I think so. The only time, I think I kind of shot myself in the foot because the only time it ever came up like doing anything other than vanilla, he was like, well, we'll just be honest. I was on my period and he was like, well, we could do other things.
Yeah.
And I was like, what other things? So I just like,
oh no.
And he was like, you tell me. And I was like, I don't know.
No.
But I was like too embarrassed to say like, I don't know other things.
That's weirdly endearing.
It's so cute.
Here, this will make
I relate to this hardcore.
Yeah, totally. Listen, I don't know your boyfriend, but I'm gonna safely assume, I think, that you really don't have much to worry about. And here's why I think that is. I think he has some awkwardness and insecurities about this stuff too. What I'm saying, you're not dating some sort of like sex expert who like has this built up sexual experience that he just can't experience with you, right? He might be he might be open, but he's not comfortable necessarily either. So don't worry about like him being super disappointed. I say that because if you were dating someone with a little bit more experience and a little bit more confidence and wanting more, guys have a way of like being like, well, that's not weird. Like, that's cool. Like, he's not comfortable either talking about that. So don't worry too much. There are plenty of if I were in that situation, I've had sex with my girlfriend on her period. I have. And a lot of times, especially when I was younger, it was just it had to do with not making my girlfriend feel like it was a dirty. It's like I don't find you very attractive. This doesn't bother me. And there were sometimes this like, well, I'm uncomfortable. It's okay. Well, if you're uncomfortable, that's fine, but I'm not uncomfortable. And then there's a it's all just about being comfortable. And so right now he might not be sure if he's comfortable suggesting you could do other things because you don't seem comfortable. And so what I'm saying is trust me, if he was more confident about sex, he would do better at that. And he's not, and that's okay. What I'm saying is you don't have to worry about him like being like so disappointed because he would probably be better at communicating that with you. So here again, you have two people who aren't great at it per se. So just be open with them and just ask questions hey, and you said you shot yourself in the foot. Like this is not a conversation you can't never have again. You act like, well, I said this once, and now there's no going back. Like you can bring it up.
But I don't know why it has to be a conversation. Can't you just grab it and start going at it and try it?
She can. Yeah. I'm all for that, right? But sometimes when that happens, it can be really awkward because you've admitted that you don't know exactly what you're doing.
But you learn by doing.
Also, you learn by talking.
I don't know.
Listen, I'm a big communicator. I find that to be really attractive and hot. And I said this on our last call. I think there's nothing wrong with talking about sex, especially when you're not like naked or having sex. Like just talking about it. Like when there's no stakes, right? When you're not vulnerable and naked or on your period and like, or he's just like naked and he's not hard. Like there's a lot of like vulnerability in that situation, even for two people who are dating. So talk about sex when you're fully clothed and when it's just like you're at dinner and you're just like, hey, can I just, I just felt a little uncomfortable, and I just want to know what you felt, because like I'm down to try more things, but like I'm also like, you probably have more sexual experience with me, and it's kind of hot if I were a guy and my girlfriend was like, do you want to teach me some things? I would be like, check, please. You know, like, I mean, seriously. Yeah. So I think my guess is he's trying to be respectful. He doesn't, as a guy, I don't want to feel like I'm, 2019, man. I never felt this way, but everyone's on high alert. I never wanted to make my girlfriend feel uncomfortable. I never wanted to make my girlfriend feel like I was putting her in a position that she didn't want to be in when it comes to sex. So if he's suggesting something and you kind of shoot it down, then he might be like, okay, I don't want to be a freak again. So similar to our last caller, I think talk about it and just let them know that, like, you know what, there are other things you can do when you're on your period. There's plenty. You do stuff for him. He can still do stuff for you. Yeah. You can kind of, you don't have to necessarily go like in the cave, but you can like dabble around the outside of it or whatever.
God.
You can,
don't go in the cave. Oh no.
Maybe it's not a cave. Cave seems to be like a large hole opening. But you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to, you really, there doesn't have to be a mess, so to speak.
I know. My first blowjob was so bad. I was so scared of penises because I also grew up very religious, and it was so bad that he told me to stop.
Sure.
And it was my first. It was so humiliating to me, but like you just literally learn by doing it and getting more comfortable.
Totally. But a lot of it is like, I'm somewhere along the line, Rochelle, I'm assuming either a girlfriend or a guy friend. You didn't just figure it out without someone making suggestions. Do. Yeah, I think at some point, Rochelle, someone might have mentioned something, some guy or something.
There are great YouTube videos about blowjobs that I would check out.
Check them out too. I want to keep encouraging communication with your partner. Is also an option. Also, yes, check out YouTube videos. There's feminist porn out there who we had talked about some previous episodes. I mean, also watch regular porn if you want, but if you want to, like, there's this feminist porn that I haven't seen it, but my understanding it's really like about actual, what maybe real sex looks like and what women enjoy, and maybe your partner and you watch it together. It's not just about like gang banging and weird fetishes like most porn seems to be. And then you watch, you're like, oh Jesus, like, is that what sex is? That is, porn usually is not a great way to learn how to have sex.
Yeah.
I just think, again, keep talking about it. Right. Yes, I mean, both with men and women, what I've learned is that they overdo it, right? If a guy's fingering a girl, like I told you about my like high school, the girl who taught me how to do that, it was like less is more.
Yeah, just grab it. Grab it.
And
get
if you're a girl, well, don't necessarily grab it. It's not a thing you're supposed to yank around.
Not yank, but grab, like hold it.
Touch it slowly, gently.
Yeah,
you
gotta just start slow.
Sure. Yeah. But don't overdo it. Sometimes people like to go in a little hot.
I overdid it.
Everyone overdoes it, right? You don't have to. And a lot of it has to do probably because they saw some porno and it was just like a lot of aggression. Slow, steady, gentle.
And a guy's a great one to show you how to do a hand job. I feel like a guy's the best at that because he does it all the time.
Totally, right? Nothing really, no one ever really can get it. Just like no one knows you like you,
Oh.
But listen, I don't think you need to worry about it. My guess is he's not overly disappointed. He might have wanted to do some things, but he's maybe just a guy, unless you feel otherwise and you're not sharing something. He's probably okay with it, and he probably would love to hear you talk about it. He just probably doesn't know how to, and he might be trying to, respect your comfort level.
Yeah.
So kind of like give him a window, let him know that you are open to it. Again, similar to our last caller, we have two people who just like don't know how to talk. I mentioned I think texting, and again, just find ways that you get more comfortable, but there is something about a couple being able to talk about it and being on the same page and feeling comfortable. I mean, again, this is a boyfriend and girlfriend situation. If it's a hookup, that's harder to do, right? If you are hooking up with someone.
Get those reps in, get the, you'll figure it out.
Definitely get the reps, but I think the best sex life the best sex relationships are couples who can communicate about what they like and dislike, that they can talk about it with each other, especially even when they're not having sex, because then when they do have sex, then you can kind of really talk more and be open about it and try new things, and no judgment. You know, you always want to never make the other person feel judged.
Right.
So yeah. I personally think that if you ask them, hey, listen, just tell them what you told us and be like, if there's some things you want to like show me what you like, I am down. And I think he will be quite thrilled to hear that. And
also blowjobs don't have to be the whole shebang. Like you can just start a little bit, get in there a little bit, and then go back to your missionary.
Everyone's different, but yes, that's called foreplay. It's a little bit of an appetizer. You don't want to get full on bread, but sometimes bread's nice.
No,
you know, like
oh god.
Well, I'm just saying, you're right.
No, it's good.
You don't have to.
You just try a little bit and then go back.
Like, you know.
Because that is overwhelming to think about, like, taking a load, like, your first. I'm sorry.
Rochelle's
I'm sorry. It's a lot to think about.
You know what? You know, it's like, you know, 3 licks on the Tootsie Pop, you know? Just give it a little. But yes, just a lot of slow touching and kind of feeling things out, literally. But I really encourage you to I think if I were, I mean, maybe I'm way off base. I think your next conversation with your boyfriend be like, hey, remember that one time?
That would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Probably.
And then like and just admit I am insecure about this. I don't have a lot of experience. So like but I want to be more experienced and I want to try new things with you and I want to do it with you. And so like, let's try it.
Make sure he goes down on you too, girl. Don't make it.
Yes.
Yes. Get yours.
Both ways.
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah,
he's not right now though.
I mean, he offered to do things when Yeah, I'm assuming he wants to do things, but yes, it should be mutually beneficial, for sure. She's frozen on this smile. She's just like thinking about him going down on her. Well, hopefully that was helpful, but you're no judgment. There's nothing wrong with. I wouldn't worry about like you had a slow start and you had lost your virginity at a certain age. It really doesn't matter, you know. It's not a race. Just be able to be with someone you're comfortable with and start slowly talking about it. And I said this with our last caller, and I think it's worth repeating is use words like we and us and not you and me, and talk about what you guys can do together and never make the other person feel judged is a great place to start, because men can get really insecure about it too, as can women. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hope that was helpful.
For your help.
Good luck. Happy hump day. And
okay.
I hope it works out for you. I think it's probably easier for guys, right? If I wonder, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking out loud here, but if a guy meets a girl and she's maybe more sexually experienced, is it harder for her to be more open? I just find that if a guy is pretty confident in his sexuality and his experience, that he's dating a girl with less experience, he's good at talking about it.
Yeah.
If I were in that situation and I suggested to her, well, we can do other things, and she's like, what? I would
do it. Yeah.
I would offer the suggestion.
Right.
It sounds like he was like, oh, well, no,
yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
I don't know. And to me, that sounds like someone who's all equally just not totally comfortable, which is totally fine. So that's why I think she doesn't have to worry about him being overly disappointed. And I think like it's two people who still don't want to talk about it, because I think plenty of guys have been like, well, let me show you.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how many people, sex is, it's not porn. It's also, you're not going to burn in hell. I mean, I don't think. Can't wait for our callers to get that 1-star burning in hell review. But there's an in between of it's in a relationship, a very healthy and normal thing. And we're just trying to normalize sex communication in a relationship.
Yeah.
Get yours, but make sure they get theirs. But Man, if you're going in blind, imagine, like, you're suggesting just doing your reps. I get that.
No,
Get your
that's
reps.
what I'm telling her what I did.
But don't get in a car, put on a blindfold, and put your foot on the gas. Because you're gonna crash into a wall.
But better to crash and then get back on. It's not like you're gonna die. Get back on your feet. Try again.
Totally. But also maybe take the blindfold off. And instead of like putting your foot on the gas, just start real slow.
I know, but sometimes you just got to jump off the diving board,
Sure, but you run the risk of an awkward situation that sets you back that you didn't need to.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm down for communicating. I'm not good at it.
If you grab the dick and yank away.
Not yank.
He literally might be like, okay, like, I love you and we can have sex, but please don't touch my dick. That hurt. That can happen. Like, if you don't know how to give a hand job.
That literally has happened to me, but then you learn.
It can be uncomfortable for guys. Same way, if you have a guy who like is just cranking away down there, probably really uncomfortable, I would imagine, for you women.
Yeah.
So just let the other person know.
Yeah.
But yeah, get some reps. I like
sexversation. That's what you're encouraging.
Sex. Did you make that up?
Yeah, sexversation.
There we go. What's up, Bethany? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
So good. Thanks for asking. We obviously have Rochelle here.
Hi, Bethany.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Nick.
Super excited.
Super excited.
Super excited to be on your podcast.
She spelled my name right on the email.
Is that like a unique thing?
Mm-hmm.
No one gets your name. Rochelle? Bethany, how can we help you?
Okay, so my question, I'm not really sure how applicable it is now, but it was something that was really, really picking at me at the beginning of my relationship. And to kind of understand why there was shame and guilt around it, I also came from a very conservative Christian home where sex was reserved for the relationship between a man and wife.
There's a lot of you out there.
What?
Said you're not alone, Bethany. You're not alone.
No, it's a very common thing.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends, it's similar. And so around the age of 19, I was in a committed relationship and decided that it was a good time just to kind of explore my sexuality, and because I felt comfortable with him, and found out that kind of comparing notes with friends, I might have what you call an advanced sex drive, I guess.
Tell us more.
Than my friends. And so,
what do you mean by advanced? I mean, again, it's all relative, right? I mean, if all your friends are from your similar backgrounds,
I
can't get enough.
Love
Just if he's willing to give it, you're willing to take it, kind of thing.
Oh no, I only in a committed relationship.
No, I know, but in a committed relationship, I don't mean you're out there just whoring around, but like,
which there's nothing wrong with.
Nothing
that.
wrong with whatever. We're not here to judge, but maybe whoring around's the wrong phrase.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyways.
But yes, pretty much. I'm pretty much down whenever.
Down.
That's kind of how.
Great.
How it is.
All right. And what's your question? That sounds fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that relationship, because I'm so young, I think that there started to be guilt and shame around the act of having sex, because I really enjoyed it.
From who?
But that relationship eventually ended.
Okay.
Not because of that, but that was a factor. And so I decided for a time I would just close the door on that and focus on myself and figure all of that being single until after I graduated undergrad, and when I started grad school, I had this summer of just nothingness. And so when you're bored, things happen. And so I had very casual relationships with two guys at separate times. And it was more of a hookup culture. And I decided that wasn't really for me.
Okay.
And so moving to a completely new city, I knew no one. And I told myself, okay, Bethany, I was only 22 at the time, but I'm dating with the intention. So intentions to eventually end with a marriage or just a committed relationship. And I was taught that you want to build it on a solid foundation, and maybe the physical wasn't a solid foundation. So I was like, okay, you're not going to do it. So
I was on Bumble to meet people and kind of learn more about the city that I just moved to. And about 3 weeks into that process, I swiped right on my man. We had an amazing first date. We really connected on a intellectual, spiritual. We had similar core values and beliefs, and he was hilarious, made me laugh, and I just enjoyed spending time with him. I think the date lasted 5 hours, and I went home. He dropped me off, was super respectful. We ended up not even kissing, though the chemistry was there, and I was really proud of myself. I was like, way to go.
Because all I want is that dick. I'm just kidding, sorry.
Let's be real.
Where are we now? Where are we now? I guess what can we help you with, if anything?
Well, I'm about to get there. Let's
get there so we can get into the meat of it.
Second date, we had sex, and after that, it was 6 to 8 times a week, and on average, the couple is 2 to 3. And so, in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, is there actually substance in this relationship past the sex? He's still pursuing me. We were still dating, but was the euphoria of the act taking over, long term?
I mean, I don't have a specific answer for you. I think it's maybe important for me to take a step back and explain to your audience something about averages. In the sense of averages don't mean that most people are necessarily doing that number. Averages mean you take a collection of a bunch of people and then you average those two together. And when you have an average, it means there's a bunch of people on the spectrum. Average is different than the medium in terms of what most couples, and maybe that's 2 to 3, I don't know. But within an average, you do have a lot of people having a ton of sex and you have a lot of people having no sex, and then somewhere together that's always what in the middle. So this idea of comparing your relationship to the average, especially when it comes to how much sex you're having, is probably a fairly unhealthy exercise for any couple, whether you're having no sex or a lot of sex. As it relates to you and defining your relationship, I mean, again, I can't tell you how much sex you should have or anything like that, but from listening to your story, I think you seem to be someone who's, and how old are you now?
I'm 23.
Okay, so you're still pretty young, and you grew up in a conservative household, and that's great. And again, we're not knocking that at all. Rochelle, both and I did that, and I'm guessing you probably still have a lot of those same values that you still live up by. But when it comes to your sex life, you've kind of branched out a little bit. But there's probably still some internal conflict of comparing how you were raised versus how does that fit in with your kind of new life and your sexual appetite, so to speak, and shame and judgment maybe coming from people you're dating or yourself, probably mostly, or what you think your parents would think if they knew all the things you were doing. So you're probably just putting too much emphasis on sex in general, regardless of how much sex you're having. Just the idea of sex. You're probably making your relationship all about sex, one way or the other, just because it's been such a conflict of what you were taught. Interesting enough, for people who grew up in the purity culture, you talk about sex a lot. You just tell them not to fucking do it, So it's a constant reminder of how obsession about don't do sex. You're signing contracts. You're doing all these things. So you're taught a lot about sex. Even sex becomes a big part of your life in terms of how to avoid it. and now you're not avoiding it. So now you're just trying to find how sex is fitting into your relationship. I think you just kind of chill out about the whole sex part. You're still dating this guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you like him, and it's great.
Oh yeah, no, I love him. So it was kind of more of a question that I used to have.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe there might be listeners.
Yeah, totally.
Who are is there such thing as too much sex in a relationship?
It could be too much sex if one of you is just I can't keep up. Then it's too much sex for them. And that is a possibility. I mean, that's the thing. We have this stereotype that guys always want sex and the girls don't want sex. And that might be a stereotype because that might be the norm, but that's certainly plenty of people. And again, at different points in the relationship, their sexual drive might diminish. You could be dating this guy and a year into a relationship, he gets this new job, he's super stressed out, and maybe he's just not She's not feeling it, right? And oftentimes in a relationship, women tend to feel like, "Whoa, what do you mean you don't want to have sex with me? I mean, like, what the hell?"
Right.
You know? I just remember, for me growing up, it was like when I wanted sex, maybe we would get sex. And when she wanted sex, I better be ready to have sex, because it was like, wait, you don't, like, whoa, I'm the one who turns.
Yeah.
And so that's not normal either. I think sometimes that stereotype negatively affects especially young relationships or any relationship, is that sometimes guys aren't into having sex, and it's not about you, the women. That's why they don't want to have sex. It has nothing to do with whether they're attracted to you or still don't want to have sex with you. There might be, like, listen, you know, when we talk about, like, is my boyfriend or girlfriend cheating on me? You know, one of the signs is they're not having sex with you. Sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, especially in terms of, like, maybe the sex just dips a little bit. You're not doing it all the time. People tend to have more sex early in the honeymoon phase of when you're just like, I can't get enough. And then it's kind of settles in terms of whatever your routine is. And that routine can change, right? You might go some time, but spending, like, I do know, especially when I was younger too, all those like ancillary things in a relationship would be you'd always like, how much does it mean I love you? You know, like how much we have sex. That tells me how much we love each other.
Right. That's not.
Do we like the same TV shows? We must really love it. You know, like all these things that you like or don't like, and other things that, like, it was like a big competition. I remember early on when I would have a girlfriend and my friends would have a girlfriend, there was like this almost like, we're more in love than they're in love. And it's just like, there's this whole like, how much we love each other. And it was like, none of that really means anything. It's all just an excitement of being in love and measuring it. It's just, do you guys like each other? Do you respect each other? And again, what about the sex stuff? The sex will eventually like slow down a little bit, right? You might have, again, those ups and downs. And when you're not having a lot of sex, the really great relationships are the ones who still enjoy each other, have fun, communicate, are comfortable with being alone. You know, they don't get insecure if they're not necessarily having sex, and have some free time. So there's so many different variables that go into a healthy relationship. Sex is just one of them. And someone who might be in your position or was in your position, or people listening, you know, there's a theme of this episode of putting so much pressure on what does it mean? What does our sex life mean to our relationship? Especially when you were told that it was something you shouldn't be doing. So sex is not, it's just one, maybe, and sometimes small aspect of a long-term relationship, especially the longer ones. So
and another thing is, it's also determining, what are you in lust with someone, or are you in love with someone? So that was another question that I was debating in my head. Like, okay, am I just in lust? Are these feelings, they're so strong? Is it love or is it lust? And so that was something that I had to really sift through as well.
Something you figure out over time. I mean, you know, to joke about it, if you want to have sex with them way more than you ever want to talk to them, there's a little bit more lust. If, you know, like I joked last week that, you know, listen, men and women both do it too, but sometimes when you want to get laid, you seem really interested in things you would never otherwise be interested in. Be like, oh, that's really interesting. Oh, like, tell me about your favorite like soap opera. I'm so into it. Can we like, you know, guys will do that. And I'm sure women do it too. When you want something, you seem more open. And when you're not trying to get anything out of a situation, you're a little bit more honest about what you're into or not. So, if you find that your decisions are all sex driven, there's probably some lust involved there. And if you find that your decisions in a relationship are more just about or are not about sex, then, you know, there's some sustainability there. But I mean, I think people spend too much time trying to figure that you'll figure that out. You know, you don't have to necessarily figure out what your relationship is in the first few months, right? You don't have to define it. You know,
we've been dating for 11 months now.
Yeah.
So
still have a lot to learn about each other. Yeah. I mean, and you know, that feels probably like a really long time for you, but it's not, to be honest. You know, you don't really.
Well, it's not a relationship, but we're actually now long distance, so that's a completely different dynamic. Oh. But even before the long distance happened,
must be all horned up.
I'm sorry?
Said you must be all horned up.
Yeah, I know, but but it was still like 4 to 6. So it did go down as the relationship persisted, but that's still a good amount.
I think you're doing
so.
Yeah. Yeah, I take it slow. I mean, I think, again, it's just things take time, and I think we tend to try to rush things, and we try to constantly try to figure out, what this is. Is it worth it? And you just kind of, I think we're always trying to rush. It's weird. Like in life, we always seem to be in a rush to figure out the rest of our lives, which is kind of a weird when you think about it. It's like you want to immediately figure out what the rest of your life is going to be like. And then once you do, it kind of gets boring. You don't want to you never really want to figure out the rest of your life, and that comes to your love life. And sometimes things take time. I mean, you're young, and if this is your forever guy, enjoy the dating aspect. I mean, again, if this is for your ever guy, someday you'll live in the same city. I'm assuming you'll have a family and kids and do the whole like picket fence thing. And that will get eventually mundane. And I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying right now there's excitement in maybe dating someone who it's tough long distance, but if you guys have a great relationship and you communicate and you go to way to see each other in the meantime, you have a lot of free time that you aren't going to have when he doesn't live in the same city. You have the luxury of missing each other, which is really exciting. It's fun to miss people because then when you do see each other, for someone with a strong sexual appetite, wow, what a weekend.
Very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah, don't always be in a rush to figure out the rest of your life. The rest of your life is a really long fucking time. Hopefully, right? Hope we're not dying tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh no.
I should knock on wood. Anyways, yeah, I hope that was helpful. We're kind of rambling a little bit, but yeah, there's no rule other than being on the same page.
Yeah. And it's okay to love sex as a woman.
It's a great thing to love sex. I think it's important on the flip side, if you are a woman with a high sex drive, just to not expect that your male partner should have to match that. He may not want to have sex as much as you. And that's also okay. All right. It works on both sides. So
luckily we're pretty equal, and we're really good about communication, because that's really important. Which I love that y'all talk about how it's so important to communicate about sex, and so we're very open about that, and have talked about, okay, yeah, so we do have a lot of sex. How do you feel about it? And worked through it, and kind of like compromised in certain situations. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about it, because it's cool to see your opinion on the fact.
Well, thanks for calling in. We really appreciate it. It's been a fun day of how much sex should we or shouldn't we have?
Sexversation. What is it?
You already forgot.
Oh no. Sexversation.
Sexversation. It doesn't really flow off the tongue.
Oh well.
To be honest,
I like it.
I like it. It's fine. I really love it looks like she has a crucifix right on top of her head. It's just very ironic. All right. Well, thank you for calling in, Bethany. Best of luck with your relationship and to you in life. It sounds like you're going to be just fine.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. What a great episode.
I really enjoyed myself.
Fun. It's a little bit of a theme today.
I like the cave, exploring outside the cave.
The cave was kind of I don't know. I
like cave.
Not my best analogy.
No, there's treasure outside.
There's treasure outside to be found. You never really know. Sometimes you don't have to go deep into the cave to find treasure. Wow.
You do have good analogies.
Yeah, listen, we'll always talk about how important communication is on this show, but more so especially with sex. Mm-hmm. People, I love sex. It's great. It's a great part of a relationship, but it shouldn't define your relationship one way or the other.
Yeah. Because that's not a guarantee,
And sex can be confusing. And I think we kind of take for granted that if you're in a relationship, people are openly talking about sex. And I think we've learned that a lot of couples, even though they're married,
don't know
how to talk about sex. I mean, listen, that's the thing. If you're not comfortable with it, and you have two people who think about it. If you are, whatever it is, if you have two people who don't like to travel, and no one's knows how to plan a trip, you don't travel.
Yeah.
Right. If you have two people, whatever it is, if you're both, so either either one person has to take the initiative to say, you know what, I'm going to learn how to do this, or you hire out help. You get a travel agent, or you get a sex therapist, like whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And that's okay. But I think sometimes people just take that for granted. So let's not do that.
Yeah.
Once again, don't forget to email us at asknick@castmedia.com. That is ASKNICK at KASTMEDIA.com.
I love it. So
that was it. We all were wondering if I could get.
Yeah, we're on the edge of our seats.
How do you do it? We really appreciate it. We need your questions to keep doing these episodes. Thanks so much again for rating us 5 stars for those who did. I think you can change your rating, by the way. If you want to change it and improve it, it's up to you. And also, as always, thanks for sharing us on your social. It's a very helpful in our growing our audience. We really appreciate, especially you guys out there. We want your questions, our 10%ers. Thanks for emailing those in. Ladies out there, introduce us to some of your guy friends.
Yeah. And stay tuned for Wednesday. We have Dean on the podcast.
Dean will be joining us.
I'm very nervous and excited.
Rochelle has a huge...
I guess I have a huge crush on Dean.
She guesses. Since we started this podcast, she's like, we're going through like potential guests. Well, what about Dean? How about Dean? Should we get Dean? What do you think, Nick? Is this the time for Dean? Should we do Dean? I don't know. What do you think? Is it too much? I don't know. So yeah, finally Dean's going to be here.
No.
I think it'd be great. We'll talk a little, obviously, Paradise. We always hope that our interviews are a little bit different than some of the other Bachelor ones out there. I want to dive in the weeds of Dean Uglert, the traveler.
Very complicated man.
Dean tick? Is he, who's more broken, Dean or myself?
No, don't.
Anyways, Dean's a really great human and one of the more authentic and intelligent people to grace us on the TV of The Bachelor, I think. And we'll have him on Wednesday. So please tune in. Until next time, and that is Wednesday. Have a great day.
You're crazy.